Barev, and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by Taylor Rockwell. Barev.
Barev, let the record show that Daryl chickened out of saying Barevyev Barigalust, which I believe is hello and welcome in Armenian.
Yep, and why Armenian? Why Armenian?
Because Manchester United won the Europa League this evening, 2-0. And I believe that makes Henrik Mkhitaryan the first Armenian to win a European competition and the first Armenian to score in a European competition.
That he did. He scored the second goal.
In a European Cup final, excuse me.
There we go. He scored the second goal. Paul Pogba kind of scored the first. You could maybe credit it to Davinson Sanchez. But
sure.
It looked like it was on target, so Pogba gets the credit. Man United 2, Ajax 0. But the verdict on this Europa League final, Taylor, for the most part, is boring.
Yes, for some, and I think that is a pretty lazy way of approaching this game, to be honest.
Okay, before we get too deep into this, we should do the full disclosure that Taylor is a Manchester United fan, but also the full disclosure that I always give. Taylor's also very good at assessing games neutrally for the purposes of the Total Soccer Show, right? There was a celebration period, now we're into the Total Soccer Show period.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but I think...
But you say not boring, and not just because your team won.
Yeah, but you do too, don't you? Or do you think it was pretty boring?
Yeah, but I'm a huge nerd.
That's the thing. I think that if you were watching this in a bar and you were expecting, like 3 goals or 4 goals and it to be a really tightly contested affair, I think then, you probably thought it was boring.
That's right. This is a game that you wouldn't necessarily wanted to have watched like just casually in a bar, but it is a good game for you to like stare intently at the TV and try and figure out tactically what's happening, because it was boring for a reason.
Yes.
Which is always the case, right? It's always boring for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was boring for a reason in this case because Jose Mourinho, I think, got this one about as right as you could possibly get your tactics.
Right.
And so I know I've seen those...
the full Jose.
And it really is. I really do think that this is me speaking as much of a neutral as I can be. Because, they did some things wrong and it wasn't that exciting, generally speaking. But I think if you're looking at what they did defensively, how they marked Ajax out of the game, how they killed off an Ajax attack that many people thought would cause lots of problems, I think it's pretty impressive.
Let's start with the one we noticed from kickoff, which is the thing we noted in our preview, the thing everyone was talking about was Ajax's really dangerous press where they all come and swarm after you and you just can't play it out of the back. What did United do from kickoff?
They booted it long.
They did
that routinely.
And they kept on doing it.
They sure
Chris
did.
Smalling and Daley Blind, the two centre-backs, they didn't even let Ajax come and press them, because before they got a chance, they would kick it long to Fellaini's head, chest, thighs, or for Rashford to run onto, and it was as simple as that.
Right, and I think with that in mind, I enjoy stats, don't get me wrong, but I think stats alone don't give you like the full story of what happened in a game.
You're thinking of the possession stat
unless
here.
You look at them overall. And I think if you look at the possession stat and then you look at the number of clear-cut chances or shots on target from Ajax, it shows you that yes, they had possession, but they weren't able to do much with that possession. Yep. And I think that's because Manchester United were aware that Ajax are going to put you under pressure if you try to pass it around and be slow in possession. They're going to win the ball off and go straight to goal. So the way you deal with that,
don't let them do it.
Boot it long and make them build from the back, and then you can contain them and you can counterattack yourself.
Yep, they Ajaxed Ajax.
Yep,
essentially.
I think they did.
I was kind of joking with you while we were watching the game that Daley Blind came up through the Ajax academy, played for Ajax, learned the Ajax way, learned to pass it out of the back, and here he is in a final against Ajax playing long ball so that they can't get his team. It kind of made me half sad that he had to sort of betray his principles. It's a little bit like turning to the dark side. If you're from an Ajax perspective, it is.
See, I disagree, because I think there's a reason why it was Daley Blind playing those balls.
Okay.
Because it was Chris Smalling heading them clear, same thing with Marouane Fellaini.
Roughly the same distance as Daley Blind with his feet.
But that was part, I think, of United's plan, is that Daley Blind, of the two centre-backs, is the most ball-playing, that he can play those balls.
The most accurate long balls.
Yeah, and I think that comes about from his Ajax experience.
That's what I'm saying. It's like using your Jedi skills for the dark side.
Okay, so I see what you mean. I thought you meant that it was like he was like not doing what he was trained to do because he's just playing ugly soccer. But I mean, he was even the one.
With Harrison Ford being pushed off a platform.
There you go. He was even the one. Spoiler alert. He was even the one taking their free kicks, United's free kicks, when they were like 40 yards from goal or so.
Yeah.
So I think they were kind of relying on his ability to play a ball out of the back and then play it long if need be as well.
Can we have a moment for Marouane Fellaini?
Absolutely.
Because so many of those balls were either won in the air or at least caused trouble in the air because of Marouane Fellaini, and not just because he's tall. I know we talked about this a little bit in the preview. It's because he's just good at it. He's good at like receiving. He has a great touch for receiving the ball with his chest, with his thighs, or heading the ball on.
I think he's really good at adapting to where the ball is landing. Essentially, that it's not always he's going to flick it on. It's not always that he's going to chest it. It's that he kind of. He can cause chaos in that just his presence there, he can body somebody off. There's a bunch where he let it just kind of go over his head and didn't actually challenge for the header, but because the defender was focused on not letting him win the header, they weren't focused on winning the ball. But he can also kind of like just flick it on with the outside of his foot, and so I think he definitely gets credit for his ability just to adapt and play the ball intelligently.
And let's go to part
Which
two.
is a weird thing I don't think I ever would have said about Marouane Fellaini before this game.
But that's the truth, right? I feel like he's kind of caricatured because he has the big sideshow bob hair. Like people just think that he's kind of this comedy figure, but he's much smarter and much better than people give him credit for.
He has some liability capabilities.
Let's go to the phase 2, I think.
Sure.
Okay, Man United was don't start played out the back because Ajax will come swarm. They'll send all those men forward. They'll rip the ball away from us and then they'll counter us and it'll be 1-0 Ajax and we'll be in trouble. But so you kick it long and you make them have it in the back. Phase 2 is what United did next to prevent Ajax building through the middle. Like I talked up before this game, David Klaassen, and he's got this great touch in midfielder. He could make things happen. And Kasper Dolberg, and if he gets the ball, you're in trouble. United shut all that down, and it took us a few rewatches to figure out exactly how they were doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited to talk about it because it's a thing we figured out.
Let's do it. And I want to start with the fact that in the pregame roll into this game, they were showing some of the Ajax goals in the Europa League and how adept they are at building out of the back. That is, and a lot of that is really quick passing, pass, 1 and 2 touch. You move it down the field. It's a lot of fluidity. It's a lot of movement. And that is what that type of system is dependent upon. It's movement, it's quick passing, and it's quick decision making.
To confuse the opposition and leave them like spinning in circles, being like, oh, where did everybody go?
And so if you start to deny them the ability to play the ball quickly, to make those quick decisions, to have the space that they can then occupy, they start to not be able to play that game. And I didn't really realize that United were going to be able to do that. And I was a little bit nervous based on those highlights of Ajax completing like 36 passes en route to a goal. But that's exactly what United did, and I think they did that by just kind of playing a very solid defensive zonal system.
I think zonal is the key word because the thing we finally figured out is, okay, back 4 for United, then in midfield 3, but those midfield 3 didn't necessarily man mark.
Yeah.
They just kind of stayed in a very specific shape, which was like Pogba and Herrera deep and Fellaini just ahead, kind of a triangle.
I would almost say a central midfield 3, but I would say if you were going to ask me what formation it was, I would have gone 4-2-3-1 based on how much I saw it as Paul Pogba under Herrera sitting back and really blocking out the center of midfield. Marouane Fellaini shepherding to one side or the other, sometimes dropping back.
And then Mkhitaryan, Juan Mata as the 2 wide guys. But I'm just focusing on the middle for right now because I think that's where I want to start. And then they just refused to be pulled out of shape. So they would man mark, right? Like Pogba would man mark Klaassen when he'd come into his area. But unlike, say, when United played Chelsea and they had Ander Herrera follow Eden Hazard wherever he roamed, once the player left the zone, they just passed him on or let him go because it seemed more important than man-marking the player was just to maintain the shape so then you never get pulled out of shape. Then Ajax can't get through you.
Exactly.
That's what it was, right?
Because we started to see that within the first 30 minutes or so that Bertrand Traore on the right side for Ajax would suddenly sprint into the middle or he would drop in between the center backs. And I think that was a deliberate attempt to pull somebody with him thinking that he was being man-marked. But then the United player, in that case Matteo Darmian, just stayed where he was. And then somebody else picked him up eventually when they needed to.
And it weirdly, this is going to sound weird, but it takes bravery to not go with your man in that case. Because you feel like he's lost you and you've got to have confidence in your teammates that someone else will pick him up and just the sort of faith in the system that, no, it's better if I stay where I am and then we maintain our shape and then I don't leave a hole, basically. Because what can happen is, like Liverpool does to teams all the time, someone goes with Traore, then there's a big hole at left back, maybe Dolberg runs into that hole, ball is played over the top and suddenly there's a big gap on that wing. United did not let that happen. There's a lot of discipline. It was very Jose.
It was. And I would say it's always kind of risky when you're the defender to let that player go. But if they're dropping back, you can at least think like, okay, they're moving away from goal. I think the other thing that United...
He'll be back.
Yeah.
He'll be back.
I think the other thing that the United players deserve credit for, though, is it would be very easy for Paul Pogba, say, to track his runner, to track David Klaassen and when he was marking him. And if Klaassen starts going towards goal, you don't want to let him get in behind you. So you stay with him and you stay with him and you stay with him. And you may be tracking him, but what you're doing is vacating space that then Ajax can push into. Now they're occupying and have possession 30, 25 yards from goal as opposed to 50 yards from goal. And so I think it takes even more bravery to let that player run by you and think, someone's going to pick him up, I'm marking my zone, they won't be able to pass through. And that's exactly what they did. Do
you think anyone will be annoyed that we're praising the bravery of sort of sitting back and not going to chase the ball?
Maybe. I mean, but I think that sort of is like, it's because, basically I'll put it this way. Alexi Lalas was doing the color commentary. We love Alexi Lalas. He's a friend of the show. I think that he was hoping just for entertainment value, that it would be 4-3 or 3-2.
I was hoping for an exciting game. I really thought this would end up maybe 3-1 United. Yeah, I thought there'd be goals.
And I think some of the frustration that comes from that is neutrals or people who are supporting Ajax being like, well, come on, you guys aren't even playing. Like, this isn't fun. Like, you're not making this fun at all.
That's Mourinho. That's really what he did. He looked at what Ajax can do, found the best way to stop that, and then that's what Man United went out and did, and now they have a giant trophy.
Yeah, and I mean, and to his credit, I think Alexi kept saying over and over and over again, like, Jose Mourinho's priority is not to entertain me, but this is pretty boring.
But I wish he would entertain me.
Exactly. And so, but I do think that that's part of the criticism. And so, yeah, people might be frustrated. People might think like, oh, Taylor's just a homer. Daryl's allowing him to talk about Manchester United because it's been pretty bleak for the past couple of years. But in reality, I think it was...
I'm building up credit for the Wolves special we're doing next year.
That's fair. But I think it was really captivating for me just because we had done so much research on Ajax and how they play that, I mean, they look incredibly explosive and incredibly dangerous at pretty much every position. And so to see them really effectively nullified and frustrated, it made it that much more interesting for me. And that's why I think I really enjoyed this game. And then, of course, winning is good. Champions League is good.
Before we get to the goals, there's one more tactical thing. Again, it's something we previewed and obviously something Jose Mourinho saw and United blocked off, which was Traore and Younes dribbling inside from the wings in an Arjen Robben kind of style. It looked to me like United had a plan to shut that down every time. Yeah,
and it was essentially the two outside attacking players, be they midfielders or forwards in a 4-3-3 or attacking midfielders in a 4-2-3-1. That would be Enrique Mkhitaryan and Juan Mata. Yeah. They did a really good job of dropping back in as well. So every time you would get Traore on the right, getting the ball on the wing, Darmian would slide across to cover, and you would have Mata or Enrique Mkhitaryan slide over too, so that even if that player cut inside, the best they could do was continue their run into the middle where you have two or three more players, and more likely they're going to get blocked off and either have to turn around and drop it or get dispossessed.
I even saw one, I wish I'd taken a photo of it, maybe there was one where it was Younes coming in from the left, it was... Valencia sort of marking him as you would, like in a one-on-one type situation. But then Juan Mata would step just in field and put his hands behind his back, which says, I am blocking your shot. Yeah. And you're not going to get a handball out of me. Yep. Do your worst.
Yeah. And then to bring it full circle before, I know we're moving to the goals, but to bring it full circle, the other thing I thought was really interesting was that, so say Juan Mata does a good job, he blots off that cut inside, Manchester United win the ball, they would... I would say 90% of the time, take 3 seconds, look around, see if there were open passes. If there weren't, boot it upfield, look for Marcus Rashford, theoretically, and sometimes just get rid. Because I think...
And let Rashford chase it, but it doesn't matter if he doesn't get it, because what we want is for Ajax to have the ball back there and then not let them come forward.
And they have to send people back, they have to transition back into defense to then transition into possession. Whereas I think Ajax are okay with losing the ball, as long as United try to play slow and then they can win the ball back off United 40 yards from United's goal as opposed to 20 yards from their own goal.
Well, here's how the goal comes about. The goal comes about from an Ajax possession in the back. Yeah. They give the ball away cheaply and Man United counter quickly. Yep. They Ajaxed them. They
sure did.
They Ajaxed them, absolutely. And it all starts with Jairo Rijderveld. Unfortunately, takes a throw-in which only finds Juan Mata. It was this whole thing stems from a bad throw-in.
Have you looked up a pronunciation guide here?
No.
I saw you look at your screen and then say Jairo. So that's what threw me for a second.
You can look on my screen. It says Rijderveld. I just kind of guessed at Jairo.
I think it's Gyro. Okay. I think it, strangely enough, at least...
Either way, he's bad at throwing.
He's in the scouting network. That's the only reason why I have some familiarity with him. But he really is. And we watched this to see if maybe he slipped. Maybe he thought a runner was going to make a run. And I think in the end, he just thought he could throw the ball farther than he can.
Yep. He's going for Shona, I believe, who is just behind Juan Mata. But instead, maybe he thought Mata was shorter than he is. Instead, Mata jumps, gets ahead to it, and then it falls to United, and it's a Man United possession in Ajax's final third. Yeah. And I want to say, I don't think there's anything special about what Man United did in terms of the marking on that throw-in. Nope. I think it was just a bad throw.
Yeah,
just a bad throw, and the whole game kind of turned on it.
But I don't think there was anything special in the way they marked, but I think to the point you made earlier, there was something special in what they did after that, which is, I mean, Juan Mata heads it to Marcus Rashford. Rashford first touches it back to Mata. Mata cuts it back inside, and it ends with the Paul Pogba goal.
Yeah, Fellaini's the missing man in that.
Yeah, thank you. But if you look at what...
Fellaini has the assist on that first goal, by the way.
He does, you're right.
Fellaini,
but if you look at what Ajax are doing in that process, it's exactly what they want Manchester United to be doing. That's what you say when they flipped it. It's that now it's Ajax scrambling scrambling, and
Scrambling's the word.
And at one point, it was Mata and Rashford in the box, kind of off to the side, and they had 4 or 5 Ajax players with them. Fellaini open at the top of the box, Paul Pogba wide open at the top of the box.
Yeah, and Pogba's open because of that scramble and panic, and everybody's trying to get back, and they forget that if Pogba just takes he takes just a few steps back and to the left, and suddenly he's wide open to receive that ball.
JFK reference there.
Not deliberate, but yeah.
Yes, and then it's Fellaini gets the ball, plays it to Pogba. Pogba takes that really smart first touch.
Why is he so smart?
Because he takes it away from pressure, and he sets himself up. It's a good touch.
Right foot touch, left foot shot?
He does. Yeah. And he takes it away from the onrushing defenders, but he still leaves himself in a shooting position. I would say, he gets credit for the goal. The replays, I'm going to say, make it look as though it's going on frame, but then it takes a pretty savage deflection off of Sanchez.
Yeah, Sanchez does nothing wrong, right? Sanchez is 20-year-old Colombian defender, just gets in the way of the shot. I've been that guy when you've kind of done your job, you've just blocked the shot, and it just so happens that your block is what sends it past your own keeper.
Yes. So
life is not fair sometimes.
No, it's not. So commiserations to Davinson Sanchez and to Onana, the goalkeeper for Ajax, who really... Onana, yeah. And to Ajax fans as well, because that really is the most, oh no moment. When you see the deflection, goalkeeper's already committed. Onana does a good job to try to get back across, but it's just so slow, and he's not going to be able to get there, and it's almost slow motion goes into the net.
Like that. I bet goalkeepers have nightmares where they're almost getting to balls that are going past them.
I think the Pirlo Panenka on Joe Hart, I'm sure that still haunts his dreams for the exact same reason. Yep. So that sets United up to take the lead inside the first 20 minutes, and I think that's also part of the reason why you see Ajax struggle for a decent amount of the first half, is because I think they're panicking.
Is there anything Ajax could have done differently? Because I know we focused very much on what Man United did, because basically they did everything right, and I'm wondering if Ajax could have countered this in any way. Did we see any signs of things they were trying to do or thinking about doing?
This isn't quite an answer to what you're asking, but I would say the two things that I think really went wrong for Ajax, aside from United getting their tactics right, is that number one, I think Ajax looked kind of nervous from the start, and I think that's because they're very young. We talked a lot about that.
Yeah, they're all about 20, 21.
I think their oldest player
is 17.
I think their oldest player they had on the field at one point subbed on, and he's 24 or 25. So that shows you how young they are.
Shonna's 30. He was the old guy.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, but I think when he subbed off,
that's it.
It was I forget who came on for Shona, but yes, it was then there. The oldest one was 25. But so I think you see that sort of we're playing United. It's a European final. This is a big deal, and I think you could see a little bit of that nervousness. And then I think when that goal happened, that nervousness got exacerbated. And so you would see moments...
You also saw frustration. Because of the way that United were doing that zonal thing and not letting Ajax pass through, you did see, when they played it out of bounds a couple of times, they would just be, punching the air and being so frustrated with themselves that it's like they hadn't come up against this situation before. And I think there's an emotional maturity that just comes with being older, having played more games, that lets you deal with that better.
Yeah, that could be. But I feel like that's a lot of, the second half. They started to get more and more frustrated. You'd see them, almost trying to pull their hair out. But it did seem like in the first half there would be moments. Yeah, but you would see those moments in the first half where they would sort of find a little bit of space. They would catch United in the wrong position. And even then, it was a bad touch out of bounds or a heavy touch that went to a United defender or just an errant pass. And all of that, to me, spoke to a lot of nervousness. And suddenly we're down. This was the one thing we didn't want to be. Now we have to really go at United and they can sit back more. Yeah. Oh, boy, I'm nervous. Bad touch.
Well, at least they didn't concede early in the second half. Oh, wait. That's exactly what happened. Yeah. They had a weirdly strong start to the second half.
Yeah.
Which we went back and rewatched it because it seemed like there was a bit of panic in the United defence. There was a bit of a scramble from United that they ended up clearing. I think they score from the clearance, right? The clearance is a corner. They score from the corner.
Yep.
So we went back to see, did Ajax do something clever and incredible to start the second half? Not so much, right? It was just a couple of misplayed tackles from Fellaini and Herrera.
It was Herrera over pursued and I think got turned, and that created a little bit of space. And then I think the ball took two favorable deflections that fell to two different Ajax players, and that's why they were able to sort of get a shot off.
So there was nothing different or better about Ajax in the second half, and then they're 2-0 down.
Yeah, but even that chance they got was still a shot from distance that gets blocked, then gets partially cleared, then gets cleared, and in the process, Marouane Fellaini gets fouled. So he draws the foul, runs all the way forward. Sergio Romero takes the kick. Fellaini does the thing I was talking about earlier, where he doesn't really win it, but he knows that he can let it go over his head.
Sanchez has to come steaming in and bang it clear to prevent Fellaini being through on goal, basically.
No, it's Fellaini flicks it on. I think it's Rashford who's in on goal, and then Sanchez comes across, puts it out for the corner. But so it's just interesting that it's Fellaini wins it. Fellaini then sort of wins the header that then leads to the corner. corner,
so
and then Fellaini...
We're pro Fellaini is what we're saying.
Yeah, because even here, I was curious where that was going to end. Profil, and then it was Fellaini. Yeah, that's fine. But
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So then United gets set to take the corner. Ball delivered by Juan Mata. Marouane Fellaini, I think, maybe draws the attention of the defenders, so that allows Chris Smalling to get ahead to it.
Sanchez is trying to lift him like a forklift truck.
Yeah, basically.
That's his arm center.
And because of that, maybe people aren't as focused on Chris Smalling, who's the one to actually win the header.
Not for the first time.
Puts it into the feet of Henrik Mkhitaryan, who does a weird sort of overhead, just kind of sort of an acrobatic aerial kick and puts it in the net.
Yep. Hence the Armenian hello at the start of today's show.
There we are.
Here's the key thing with that goal, though, that we noticed on the replay.
Yep.
There are only 4 Manchester United players attacking in the box.
In the box, yeah. So you've got Juan Mata taking it, you've got Marcus Rashford there for the short, and then you've got 4 United players, one of whom is Henrik Mkhitaryan, not known for being the tallest of individuals.
Mkhitaryan, Smalling, Pogba, and Fellaini.
Yep.
That's it. That's weird for a corner kick. But it said to me that United were very focused still on the idea of, we are not going to get counterattacks by this bunch of Dutch kids.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
And the way we do that is to not overcommit people forward.
Indeed. And so you keep your 3 big guys there to try to contest the header. You send Henrik Mkhitaryan. He immediately drifts into the 6 and then kind of turns, and I think is sort of there to screen, maybe collect the garbage if it spills.
I think it's both, right? Your job's both. It's to maybe get in the way of the keeper, make his life a little bit harder, but also be ready if the ball drops to do a weird over the head kick.
Yep.
That's what it is. Not an overhead kick, it's an over the head kick.
Over the head. I like that. Yeah, that works. And put your team up 2-0.
Yeah, or a broken bicycle.
I also don't know if I like that. I also don't know if Jose Mourinho celebrated that one. I know he didn't celebrate the first one at all.
Yeah.
The second one maybe a little bit more.
Right? I know that you kind of love that. I feel like his not celebrating the first goal was a very look at me not celebrating.
Oh, I didn't love it. I just thought it was pretty hilarious that it was, because I think his whole staff wanted to celebrate, and they're like, "Oh, right, okay, yeah." Sorry,
Was it Rue Faria next to him who sort of
stood up and then sat down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, do you like the Busters?
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like the little kid in Jaws mirroring his dad. That's what it felt like. The whole coaching staff was like, "Oh, never mind, sorry, boss."
And then United really just sort of see this game out in many ways. They just keep doing the same thing, but with a 2-goal cushion. Ajax try a few things, like they replaced Dolberg with, I've forgotten who's number 77, Neres. Comes on. I'm scrolling through the team.
The Brazilian, I believe.
Yeah. Neres, I think comes and shows a bit more than Dolberg does, but still isn't enough of an outlet for them to be able to break through that Manchester United defense.
Yeah, because we were both pretty impressed by what Dolberg did in the season. He was their top scorer.
I was watching his highlights, and wow, that's a
Yeah,
maybe go watch his highlights from the season, not from this game.
Yes, and I'm not okay. I know this is going to sound a little too critical, but we have often criticized Eredivisie defenses, so it'd be easy to discredit some of that. But then you look at what he's done in the Europa League, and he's been a threat there as well.
To Schalke and to Lyon in the last 2 rounds. Yeah.
But I think because of what United were doing defensively in marking their zones, marking that space, he then had to work really hard to get any sort of opening, to get any look on the ball. And I think he just kind of couldn't figure out what to do because he was always marked, or even if he wasn't, by the time the ball was played to him, he had 2 people on him immediately.
I saw him doing a lot of just kind of standing off the shoulder of Chris Smalling and just hoping something would happen. I'm sure he did more than that. He probably came to try and show a couple of times, but he basically, it feels hard to talk this way about a 19-year-old Danish kid up against Man United for the first time, but there's a different striker who maybe would have done a better job of trying to cause some chaos and trying to make himself available for the ball. Like Lewandowski, for example.
Okay, so I thought you meant on the Ajax team. I was like, there was?
No, yeah, gotcha. I'm talking like a world-class striker like that would have found a way to show for the ball.
Yeah, I think so. Or at least would change up the game a little bit or drop deeper. 19. Yeah. No. Yeah, so I mean, again, that speaks to maybe overall, I think you said at the end of the game, I kind of want to see this game again in 3 years. You want to see this Ajax team in 3 years, even though they probably will not be together.
I think, that's the sad part for a team like Ajax is there's guys like Dolberg and probably Klaassen are going to get too big, get sold, and then next time this comes around, there'll be another teenager in that. So it'll probably be Justin Kluivert.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Probably.
So you never get to see the team mature. And the one time it did happen, 1995, you got one of the most exciting Champions League teams of all time.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
I guess the silver lining would be that they have already qualified, I think, for the qualification round of the Champions League next year.
So there's more at stake Champions League wise for Man United in this game.
Oh yeah, absolutely there was. Again, all the pressure I think was on Manchester United.
Do you want to talk about that then? United qualified for the Champions League. Obviously, Jose Mourinho's gambit or gamble, gamblet, paid off. Don't forget about the Premier League. Don't worry about it. I'm going to win the Europa League.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what he said. We don't want to play these games, I believe was the quote a week ago.
So now, we were doing pass-fail with Premier League teams recently. This nudges Manchester United into the pass column.
Yeah, I think they were undecided before.
Yeah.
The grade had not been determined. Yeah, I think it has to be a pass.
So they win the EFL Cup. I can't remember the late season sponsor. I'm just going to call it the EFL Cup. They win the Europa League. And I saw Jose Mourinho
I didn't love that.
in the team celebration moment telling everybody to hold up 3 fingers.
Because they won the cup treble.
Did he mean Community Shield?
He sure did.
Come on, Jose.
Yeah, that doesn't count. Nor should you consider it counting.
I noticed certain players were not willing to put up 3 fingers.
Yeah, my only hope is that he had made a joke before of like, it's a cup title if we make the Champions League and Arsenal don't. And then there was like the team kind of celebrating an inside joke. That's what I'm hoping for. Because I am not...
I think you know what
I will not accept that as a treble. I won't even accept that as a double, I don't think.
And then the other thing we should at least note is that this is big for the city of Manchester, like a couple of days after the tragedy. And that really is like, that's ringing out. From what news I've seen from back home, is it's been really important in terms of bringing the city together and having something to celebrate. Like even Man City fans will be kind of celebrating this.
I think they'll be politely applauding.
Yeah, there you go. But that's more than what would have happened.
That's
right?
definitely true.
Yeah, the good community spirit around this cup win.
It probably doesn't hurt that Man City have already qualified for the Champions League knockout round as well.
May they meet again.
Not knockout round, excuse me, group stage.
Right.
I get confused with the qualification and preliminary stages and all that nonsense.
Only Real Madrid qualified directly for the knockout round.
That is correct.
It seems, anyway, because they are always there.
Yep.
Anything else to say on the Europa League final?
Are we going to award an MVP? And if so, should we have that be courtesy of our friends over at Fucci?
I mean, we definitely should now.
Sure.
Yeah, today's show is sponsored by our friends at Fucci Rebounders, spelled F-U-T-C-H-I. If you're a new Total Soccer Show listener, maybe you haven't heard of them. If you have listened at all in the last year, you will know all about Fucci. They are long-time sponsors of the Total Soccer Show.
They are. They allow us to hone our foot skills or look stupid on videotape. Or I guess digital video.
Or both.
Yeah.
It's not an either-or situation.
This is true.
So the Fucci Rebounder is, imagine a slightly angled net.
Yep.
Really, it's got some good tension to it. You play the ball off of it, you land it back in the court, and then Taylor tries to return the favour. You essentially play against each other. It can be a soccer skills training type thing if you want it to be that, or it can be set it up in your backyard and like drink a beer while you do it kind of thing. You can do it either way.
You can. So, with that in mind, should we get to our MVP then?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about this. I'm going to have to think of one on the fly. It's got to be a Manchester United player.
It probably does.
I want to give it to Sergio Romero because we didn't think...
That is honestly my answer.
No. But he barely had to do anything. So
I was hoping you would say somebody else so I could say Sergio Romero.
So I was kind of thinking of, in the end, Mourinho thought, well... It should be David De Gea if I'm picking my strongest team, but I've promised Sergio Romero let him keep his spot the whole time.
Yep.
What if I just come up with a defensive plan so good, Sergio Romero won't have to do anything?
Yeah, there's always those moments when you go back and listen to the previews or read all the different previews after the match has happened. Like, some of the talking points don't really come about. And I heard so many people, what happens if Sergio Romero leaks one, or, David De Gea wouldn't let that goal in, you got to start your best player. And I don't think any argument has ever been less valid after this game, because he made a couple saves, don't get me wrong. But overall, I think it was more kind of rewarding him for past experience and then just kind of being there as a cheerleader a little bit at times.
I kind of enjoyed his confidence when, didn't he sort of make one save that he kind of fluffed it a little bit, but then held onto it and then just came up holding it with one hand.
I think he did that twice.
The coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, but then late in the game, he came well off his line and almost got chipped, but I think Valencia was there to clear it for him. So
that was true.
With all that said, maybe he's not my MVP.
Didn't he hold onto the ball after the game was even over? He refused to let go of the ball.
Yep, because that Valencia came across, covered for him, got fouled, and then they didn't even take that free kick. The whistle blew. So the ball was with Sergio Romero, and he just held onto it for, all of the celebration, everything up to and including the celebrations.
Was he worried maybe the game was about to restart?
You never know.
Wanted to make sure.
You never. But I think he was like, this is my one thing I'm going to get to hold on to, so I'm keeping it.
Who's your real MVP, though?
I think I'm going to say Ander Herrera.
Okay.
It's tough because he didn't score. I would like to give it to Paul Pogba, but I think Ander Herrera did so much of the Ander Herrera stuff.
Yep,
that
quietly as well, though.
Exactly.
He didn't go charging forward either. He kind of held himself back.
Yep.
And I think that mental discipline is part of what United were instructed to do, and so it kind of worked. So, all right, I sign off on Ander Herrera.
Yeah. I mean
the real answer is Mo Fellaini, but okay.
Okay, you can do that one. I'm glad that you stalled enough to think of one, and now you're criticizing me for not saying the one that you thought of. Got it. But no, I mean, because it was also, he still does those moments of Ander Herrera feistiness where he's not afraid to get into it, but also, kind of a scrum at one point where he came across and shoved somebody, and they shoved him, and those moments, and then he was audibly caught saying, I come to play, which I enjoyed. I don't know know what that means.
I don't quite know what he meant by that.
Me neither. But I just think
fight, I guess, right? It means came to play, not to fight.
I don't think he's going to win a fight. So
because I'm small.
Yeah. So I thought that overall he had a very good game. But yes, you're probably right. In the end, it maybe deserves to go to Marouane Fellaini. Okay,
so our Fucci MVP is Marouane Fellaini, who would be very good at Fucci, I believe. As I guess any Man United player would be good at
probably.
Fucci, and any Ajax player. But yeah, Fucci MVP is Marouane Fellaini. The time is right to buy a Fucci.
This is true.
The weather's getting better. And we think, coming towards the end now, a really big discount code if you're going to buy a Fucci. So you go to playfucci.com, spelled FUTCHI.com, and you use the coupon TSS2017, TSS 2017, for $20.17 off of a Fucci rebender. It is the biggest discount available, and it can't last forever.
There we are.
I sound like, come on to Crazy Joe's second-hand car salesman.
A little. The British accent helps you steer away from that one. Yeah. Yes, but thank you to Fucci for sponsoring today's show. Congratulations to Manchester United, commiserations to Ajax, and thank you to the many people who sent in scouting reports.
Oh, yeah. How many we got today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 scouting reports.
We sure do. And many more that we will not get to today because 7 seemed like plenty.
Oh, there's more. Okay.
Up first is Kevin Renshaw scouting, I'm going to say Yanni Serra.
Yeah.
Maybe Johnny Serra. Who knows? 19-year-old German forward for the Dortmund U19s. For the second year in a row, Dortmund are the Bundesliga U19 champions. They beat Bayern Munich after 8 rounds of penalties in front of a record crowd of 33,450 people. That's not bad for a U19 championship. Yanni Serra came on in the 76th minute and was Dortmund's 4th penalty taker. He made his, so at least there's that.
Did you say Felix Passlack also played in this game?
He sure did.
I feel like that's almost like having a ringer.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair, does it? Yeah. Will Pulisic did not. He was on the bench for Dortmund.
That's disappointing. I thought he was Dortmund's U19 starting keeper.
He was in the semi-final, so it's a little disappointing here.
Christian Pulisic could have played in this game.
He could have.
Right?
That would be very unfair.
Does this suggest that Passlack won't play in the DFB Pokal this weekend?
I believe it does.
Slightly increases Pulisic's chances of getting in there.
Yeah. It was interesting to see with some of these reports how lone or like third tier players are sort of treated near the end of the season. But more on that in a moment, because up next we've got a different report.
Richie Garcia is scouting Emerson Hyndman, the 21-year-old American midfielder for Rangers on loan from Bournemouth.
Yep.
Richie says Emerson has a problem with a bone in his foot, but it will not require surgery. Bournemouth manager Eddie Howe has said that he expects Hyndman to be ready for the start of pre-season, but there's also a chance he makes the USA's Gold Cup squad. That worries me that
minor
he won't.
Chance, I'd
yeah,
say,
it's a minor chance if you're not quite fit. I don't think Bruce Arena takes kindly to unfit players.
Probably not. Taylor Williams emails in scouting Matt Olasunde, the 19-year-old American defender for Manchester United.
I'm guessing this won't be good news based on I was all excited to see him this past weekend.
Correct. Yeah. Olasunde did not make United's game day squad against Crystal Palace, which is a bit of a disappointment given that, 1, he had been training with the first team for the last few weeks, and 2, they played a lot of youngsters in that match. Taylor says he's not sure what to make of that, but, time will tell. Time will tell.
All right. Early days for Matt Olasunde, right? Because we hadn't even considered him even close to the United first team. So just to be close and talked about, there was a feature in the Manchester Evening News, right, suggesting that he could be this young American kid to play.
There we go.
So we'll see, maybe next season. John, speaking of maybe next season, John Adams is scouting Cheyenne Harrison, the 19-year-old English forward for Yeovil Town. Come on, you Glovers, on loan from Tottenham. According to Tottenham's Academy Twitter account, the club attempted to register Cheyenne Harrison and fellow loanee Luke Amos, the club being Yeovil, prior to the first team's last game with Hull. Sorry, the club being Tottenham. Prior to the first team's last game with Hull, but couldn't get the request processed in time with the FA. They were able to register Filip Lesniak in time after he came back from his unsuccessful loan from the Czech First League early. Lesniak saw some minutes at the end of the game with Hull that likely could have gone to Amos or Harrison had they been permitted to be included. This is the loan spell from hell for Cheyenne Harrison.
A little bit, yeah. But it was interesting because I didn't even realize that was a thing that, like, yeah, I guess if the season's over, you're sort of like, yeah, why not? Let's just throw him in there. Let's get him some minutes. Let's see how he does. It's interesting. Up next,
ups and downs of the Top Show Scouting Network.
Here's some more downs. Brian Wolf emails in scouting Gideon Zelalem, the 20-year-old American midfielder for Arsenal? Zelalem was injured in the US U20's 3-3 draw with Ecuador. It has since been confirmed that he tore his ACL and will be out for a lengthy period of time, likely in the neighborhood of 9 months.
So we didn't realize it would be that bad when we saw it happen, or did you have a suspicion?
I thought it might be. I thought it felt like maybe he partially tore it, because I know people keep saying it was a non-contact injury. There was significant contact about 5 minutes before. He went off for treatment. He came back on. He hobbled around a little bit, and it looked like the first time he really extended and kind of had to cut a little bit. Yeah. That's when he went down and did not get back up, which speaks to some sort of ligament issue.
Yeah, I'm kind of not happy with the US staff in this case, because it seems like he definitely was injured enough that he should have come off immediately.
Yeah.
And I know it's his decision to play on on some level, but the fact that he played on has made this injury worse. Yeah. I've got no doubt about that.
It is the weird thing, though, where, when I blew out my knee, I probably was tearing it bit by bit for about 2 months, and I would have these moments of pain. It would just be discomfort.
Yeah. Pain is your body sending you a message.
It is, but if you continue to run for 2 minutes, that pain goes away, which is probably adrenaline. But it feels it was maybe just a minor little thing, I just got a knock or something. And it's easy to sort of explain that away, especially if you're playing in a World Cup that's really important for the future of your career. True. I'm sure you'd think it's just a little bit numb now, it's going away, I'm fine. And then the shooting pain comes back and probably stays there.
So that means Derek Jones will definitely start at defensive midfield. US plays Senegal Thursday morning, 7 a.m. Maybe by the time you've heard this podcast.
More on that team. You said Derek Jones will definitely start. We're not sure if Eric Williamson will. He's scouted by Colin Bish. Eric Williamson is the 19-year-old American midfielder who plays for the University of Maryland and the US U20s. Williamson wasn't able to contribute too much offensively in that U20 game and looked frustrated.
That's been the 3-3 draw with Ecuador.
Yeah. And looked frustrated at times. He was subbed out in the 72nd minute in favor of Lagos Kunga.
I would say he's going to start. I think he's sort of well-liked by Tab Ramos and the program. I think Tab Ramos talked about him as having the softest feet of anyone in the US youth teams. In the last 8 years. I remember that weirdly specific time, which means he has someone in mind who did have softer feet, right?
Yeah.
Unless Tab's just been there 8 years. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I also think that you're probably going to see some changes at center back, probably at right back. Then you're going to have the Derek Jones change. Maybe you don't want to change 4 positions for one game.
So our guess is going to be, Derek Jones, defensive midfield, and then Tyler Adams and Eric Williamson in central midfield.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I think so.
Oh, the final report is, again, U20 related, even though the guy is very, very U20.
Yeah.
Michael Hartman is scouting Josh Sargent, the 17-year-old American forward, for ... Michael tweeted us that Josh Sargent is Werder Bremen bound. No timeline on the announcement, but it looks like he has agreed to a contract. Quick update on that. I saw a tweet from Will Parchman from TopDrawSoccer.com who says that he has a source that he trusts, but won't reveal, that the sort of talks are happening, but there's nothing official yet.
Yeah.
So this isn't a done deal, Josh Sargent to Werder Bremen, but it's kind of in the works.
It seems like it's very close to a done deal, is my guess. That because it was sort of being reported anywhere from it hasn't yet been agreed, but it's about to be, up to he definitely already has a contract. They just haven't announced it yet. And I think it's probably, his representatives are in discussions about maybe what color shoes he'll wear. It feels a little bit like that.
Maybe they're in discussions, then he scored those 2 goals, playing up 3 years in the U20 World Cup. And his representatives were like, add a 0.
Yeah.
Add a 0.
to go back to our Parks and Rec 11 for a second, his representatives turned around and said, "Money, please."
Is that Mona Lisa?
Yes, it is. Money, please.
So Josh Sargent at Werder Bremen. What do we think of that?
I mean, great. I really don't know, because it can be so.
He's not going to play, is he? Is the problem?
He's not. It's going to be another Weston McKennie, Haji Wright situation where he'll probably go play with the U19s. I'm assuming he will be eligible for that. Given that he's I think
17,
11, 10. So he'll be able to play for them. I think maybe see how that goes, and then probably do the January, if he does go, the January training camp where they do the January break. They take some of the youngsters with him and see what he does. Yeah, that'd be my guess.
But I guess right now he's playing for he was playing for the U17 residency. So it's a move. It's a good move.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So thank you to Kevin, Richie, Taylor, John, Brian, Colin, and Michael for the scouting reports. Thank you to everybody else who sent scouting reports in. We will get to them all, but we didn't have time today. Final reminder that the US under-20s, their second World Cup game is against Senegal. It is 7 a.m. Thursday morning. It is on Fox Sports 1 and Telemundo. We'll be back tomorrow with a review of that game. Also coming up on the Top Stock Show this week, we've actually got a lot going on, right? We've got quick FA Cup final preview, Chelsea-Arsenal, big game. I'm going to be talking to Matt Herman from Talking Football about the Bundesliga season and about the DFB Pokal. That is also coming up on Saturday. It is Borussia Dortmund featuring Christian Pulisic against Eintracht Frankfurt featuring Timmy Chandler.
Indeed, and not Guillermo Varela, who has been, his loan has been cancelled. He's been sent back to Manchester United.
You said a poison tattoo?
He got an infection from a tattoo. Yes, more on that in Goalmouth probably.
Oh, okay. You're on Goalmouth Thursday morning.
I am indeed.
Yeah, please subscribe to the Goalmouth, our other podcast where we give you the daily news. Final things going to be coming out this week. There's going to be the Wikipedia game. Yeah, Wikipedia game also coming up this week. All right, thank you everybody for listening.
Or to listen, whatever. Yeah.
Taylor, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, we will talk to you tomorrow.